So, I recently platinumed Black Myth Wukong, might have heard of it. I have some thoughts. Gotta warn you guys up front, there will be spoilers in this video. I did not know much about this game leading up to the release. Everybody was talking about it, I knew about the controversy with the IGN article. That's not what this video is about, I try to avoid that personally, and I'm gonna leave it out of my video. I'm here to talk about the game. Black Myth Wukong is a game worth playing. I decided to platinum Black Myth Wukong because I very much enjoyed my first playthrough, and I wanted to absorb the story for a second time, so I figured I would look up a platinum video and run it back. My dumbass accidentally forgot a single item in Chapter 4, so I did have to do New Game++, go get this one soak from these tree guys. That was my fault. I also made the decision on my first playthrough not to look at anything, any guides. The most that I did was look up any shrines that I may have missed, which did lead me to a couple different things, like the long battles. And I guess I did end up looking up the long scale as well because I didn't break that wall in the boss fight. And speaking of walls, I had a wall in my first playthrough. I was feeling pretty good about myself going through this game right up until I hit the final boss of Chapter 2. This wasn't for no reason either. Yes, he is a tough boss, but I did not find the secret area. Despite looking around, I don't know, I just missed it. And every time I got to the end phase of that Wind Sage boss, I would just get my ass handed to me. I just kind of sat there for about 2 hours and finally beat him. It was only later that I learned that you could get the wind item to assist you in the secret area, and there's a lot of that in the game. That is an actual mechanic. Not something I was aware of. Something that I wonder, I'm fairly certain I could have found if I was paying attention to dialogue better or something like that, but it is what it is. My main wake-up call was when I got to the boss of Chapter 4, Thousand Eye, whatever, and he had the exact same thing. And I hadn't found the secret area there either because I never found his brother, whoever that is, the first time. Maybe I'm not so good at looking, I don't know. I might just not be great at looking around sometimes. I think I am very thorough, and then sometimes I get impatient and I just miss stuff back and forth. That was the main source of frustration for me when I first picked up this game. And it was enough to get me pretty salty, but once I figured out that it was really more on me, I felt a little silly for being upset, especially on Chapter 2 boss. This game flows extremely well. The chapters are definitely not the same size, with Chapter 2, 3, and 4 definitely being longer than 1, 5, and 6. That's just because the story necessitated that, I would imagine. Personally, my favorite chapter is Chapter 5. I am a sucker for those types of volcanic areas. And after all of that, crazy running around all the secret areas and everything, it was kind of nice to have a break from that with Chapter 5. So I think that was a big part of why I liked it as well. The game is beautiful. The NPCs are varied. The NPCs are great. I think that the devs did a great job of making the quests easy to follow, where to look for people. It shows them where you can teleport. I do not like stuff that you can skip, but I am hoping that they patch that stuff. Like in Chapter 4, there's a bunch of stuff you can accidentally miss, which, I had gone back for Chapter 2 and gotten the secret area and I went back for a few different things. I guess mainly the long bosses. So in Chapter 4, I just assumed that I would figure out where the remaining seals, those little purple seals, were after I beat the final boss, but my game either bugged out or it's not intended for you to be able to do so after you beat the boss. There are a lot of random drops in this game. I ended up having to farm for a couple of them, but overall it is really not that bad. But not a huge deal. I did hit all that stuff on the New Game Plus run, which you do have to do to get all of the trophies and get the platinum, as well as to get, in my opinion, the coolest armor set in the game, which is the Iron Bull set. This game is unmistakably inspired by God of War, in my opinion. I know a lot of people like to call it a Souls-like or related to Dark Souls, but it is much more similar to God of War. And its linear design, its boss battles, the way that your character becomes more powerful. I just felt a lot more like I was playing a game similar to God of War than Dark Souls. Like I said, there was really only a couple bosses where I felt any real difficulty, and a couple of them was more manufactured because I didn't have the items that I needed to make the final phases much easier. because you can beat those bosses without the item. But especially in Chapter 4, the final phase is ridiculous. It doesn't allow you to use any of your stuff. I can't remember the exact specifics, but once you get the needle in the secret area, it trivializes the end of the fight, same way it does in Chapter 2, when you have the wind one. I personally missed the good ending my first time around because I stupidly forgot to go back to the Great Pagona, or however you say it, to fight Erlang before I did the final boss, and then I started a new game. But it wasn't a big deal, like I said, because I did that on my second playthrough, and I am very glad I did, because that is definitely the true ending. You get several different boss fights, including a massive epic kaiju battle. You start the game looking at all these giant gods fighting Erlang Shen, and then you work your way all the way through. And if you don't go fight Erlang, you don't get that grandiose ending that is so satisfying. I mean, it is not. You should definitely not miss it. The builds are varying and dynamic and a lot of fun. You can do damage with pretty much any build that you go for. I spread my points a lot in my first run through, and I really didn't struggle. This is one of those games that reminds you, especially recently, because you get so few of them these days, I mean, just how a good game can make you feel. You know, I mean, there's these little episodic cinematics that are in like different animation styles at the end of each chapter. And there's a hidden one at the end of the game for the true ending. And it's a myth I wasn't familiar with too, the whole black myth, Wukong, Journey to the West, all that. I had never really heard any of this, and it was really cool to be introduced to it. And after playing through the game a few times and watching a lore video or two, I mean, I feel like I understand it much better than I did, and at this point I think I probably will end up at least reading some version of the Journey to the West. This isn't really a review video. I would definitely rank Black Myth Wukong as a 10 out of 10 game, and for me that's because of everything that I've been able to get out of it. Going for the platinum was a lot of fun. As I said, I enjoyed the story thoroughly, and when it came out is no small part of it either. I mean, we're in such a gaming drought that it's so refreshing to get a game like this, and I'm looking forward to playing it again in the future. But hey, these are just my opinions. What did you think of the game? Do you agree? Disagree? Let me know. If you're watching, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.